Welcome to this second edition of the Kipling Balance. I am delighted today to have with us Carlos Torres. Carlos Torres is one of the most relevant business leaders in Europe, I would say. Not only in Europe, because the bank has a very strong presence outside Europe. He is a very good friend also, and he has a lot of interesting things to say today during this session. We know each other since many years ago, and since the moment I talked to him about this possibility of sharing with us this time to talk about this poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling, you accepted immediately, Carlos, and I was delighted. So the first thing I would like to transmit to you is welcome to the IE, as always, and welcome to this
Thanks to you. Thanks to you, Pablo, for thinking of me, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm very much looking forward to the conversation.
Very good. You know, Carlos, that we asked you to select one or two verses of the poem. It's very difficult to decide which one, because I think all of them have incredible lessons for life, for business, for leadership, and you have selected two. We will start with one of them. I think it's very, well, I like very much all of them, but this one is very good, very strong. It says, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, if it would end there, it would be very good, very strong. But what for me is unbelievable is how it finishes, no? Because it's, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, I'm blaming it on you. And you can keep your head. Why have you selected this verse, Carlos?
Well, first, as you say, the entire poem is full of good content, and it was hard to choose. But this is the beginning of the poem, and I believe it very much reflects my philosophy, and it reflects the essence of who I am. I believe it's one of my distinctive characteristics to keep the calm. Which is also a very British expression, no? Keep calm. And when things are not going well, and typically people around you are going crazy trying to figure out what to do or in despair, I find just tranquility, I find calmness. And I believe it comes from something I have learned over the years, which is to gain perspective as to what is important and what is not. That's one aspect of it. So quite frequently I ask myself and I ask others, including my two sons and my daughter, not my wife because she's even better than me at this, but quite often I ask people around me when things are not going well, what's the worst that can happen? And typically one ends up understanding that nothing too serious, even if, so sometimes we just get into the speed of life and we give importance to things that don't have so much importance.
And I think when you have a very relevant leading position as the one you have, this idea of keeping calm in difficult circumstances, because also when you keep calm, you have much more mind clarity, no? When you keep calm.
Much more, exactly.
And I think what is not always easy to achieve, well, this type of things, in my opinion, I don't know what's yours, when you are a leader, you need to act naturally. You cannot try to be someone that you are not, no? But this idea of keeping calm is very relevant, and I think what is sometimes difficult to happen together is keeping calm, but at the same time having passion and transmitting this passion.
Absolutely. Because I believe that the reason why one can keep calm is because you're doing, and you have done, with passion, all you can do. And that is really what matters, that you do what you can do, put the effort in, and then the outcome might be a good one or not, but if it's not in your hand, you shouldn't worry too much about it. So it's really about de-dramatizing, I often say. So taking things with perspective and not placing so much importance on daily events or life, even if they might seem life or death events, and I could share some experiences that I have gone
Please.
through. It could take the entire conversation, but because I have had so many, but maybe one of the, even in recent history at the bank, there have been some situations that have been difficult, but the one that clearly stands out in my life is when I was at Endesa, and we had a takeover attempt from a smaller player, Gas Natural. This is back in 2005, and it was a life or death situation, in a sense, for the company, because it was the change of control, and it would mean integration, and it would mean many of us would end up without a job, potentially. So people were quite excited, quite nervous, quite hard to keep calm. And even in those situations, you ask, so what's the worst that can happen? And it's nothing too bad.
And it happens to you in a natural way. That is what is, no, it is not that you, that naturally what comes to you is this calm, or not?
I think innately there is something there.
Yeah.
Maybe the passion has something to do in the fact that if you give everything, then you can relax about the outcomes. That's how I see it. But I think I have also learned.
Yeah.
I have learned that the consequences are something that you were really worried about, and then the bad outcome happens, and life goes on. And what's important is different things. What's important is your life and your family and things and the people you care about, and that typically remains even through adversity, especially in the professional setting, which is what I was talking about. And then moving on to the blame game, which we haven't talked much about, I think it links also the fact that you can keep calm even when you might be, people are finger pointing, because precisely if you have done what's in your hand, if you have given everything with passion, okay, I mean, people might think what they want, but it's really building the self-confidence.
Yeah,
that you have done everything in your hand. That you have done everything in your hand.
Yeah, there is another verse in the poem that has a lot to do with this. Not the second one you have selected, but a different one that I like very much because it shows this combination, in my opinion, between self-confidence and at the same time being humble, not thinking that you know everything. And because when it says, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. It's impressive.
Impressive. No? I wanted to select this one too,
yeah.
And it's very much linked to the same message. So it's having that self-confidence, which allows you to have the courage, keep calm even when things are not turning out the right way.
But at the same time, listening to others, listening to other opinions, because you don't have 100% of the truth, no? It's always something that I like very much also this one, and it's very related. But coming back to the second verse you have selected, Carlos, is if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. Well, this one is also, first of all, I personally think that to treat those two impostors just the same, I would say it's impossible. It's something that you try to treat those two impostors just the same. But it talks about success, it talks about failure, triumph, disaster. Why have you selected this verse, Carlos?
Because not so much because of because there's many interpretations you can have of this one verse. One is more along the lines that you were saying, and I can comment on that, and the contrast between when things are cooking on gas and happening the right way versus when everything seems black. But actually, I selected it because I have this particular view. I mean, not particular to me. It's not that I'm the only one, not at all. But I do believe firmly on a very different version of success that I wanted to talk about. So what does triumph mean?
Go ahead.
And success, no? And in my mind, success is very much within oneself. And it's not so much the outcomes, but the things you do and how you do them. So in a sense, it's more the journey than the end result. So success, one can think about success that, you know, the stock market price is high, or that one achieves a social status or a good paying position, or whatever definition of success based on outcomes. I don't believe so much on that definition. And that gives you the ability to then treat the triumph and disaster just the same, because what matters is what you put into it, what you do, and how you do it.
What you are saying, Carlos, reminds me, there is Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. In the preface to the English edition, he says something that I like very much. It's like if he would be talking to young people or to students that are thinking about their careers, because he starts saying, don't aim at success. And what he says is, focus in doing things extremely well, try to find excellence in what you do what your conscience dictates to you, and then he finishes. And I can tell you that in the long term, success and happiness will come. It's a wonderful way of expressing what you are saying.
Very much related to that, and yeah, and it's the effort you put into things that, and the satisfaction with yourself, feeling at ease, which is what you were just saying now, feeling that you had given what you have, that's really what defines success in my mind. And then the results might happen or not. It's very, we were talking earlier, it's very much the Japanese philosophy that you do what you need to do, and you do it as well as you can, and don't worry about the result. If it doesn't turn out the way it should, that's not what is important. And to me, in doing what you need to do, there are several aspects that I could highlight. One that is also quite important in my mind is authenticity. Mm-hmm. So behaving.
I completely agree with that. You cannot try to imitate someone else. You need to act from inside. And it is very clear, people, when you are leading, well, it's applicable also to your personal life, but when you are talking about companies, about management, when you are leading a team, this authenticity is absolutely key for people to really understand, follow, be committed. For me, I totally
absolutely agree. And even when you're not leading a team, I believe this is very important from the very start. So as young people start their careers, or they're in their mid-careers, or when they're higher in their careers, it's always very important to be authentic, true to yourself.
Yeah,
true to yourself, meaning, in my mind, to be genuine. So, to say what you think, not what others want you to say or what you believe they want to hear. Extreme transparency, ruthlessly transparent, not hide anything or pretend, like you were saying. Those are the things that make you feel good, that you know, as I was saying, the things you do and the way you do them, how you do them.
But
is very important.
When you have this authenticity, and thinking about people, for example, starting their careers, or even in whatever moment of their careers, you also need to combine this authenticity and saying what you think, but thinking what you say. That's what I would say, no? And thinking where.
That's very good. That's a very good.
When is the right moment to say this? How should I say this? So this authenticity cannot mean that boom, boom.
Okay,
no, you need to think also what you say and how you say things. No, when you are, for example, part of a team or in your personal life.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Words. There was a writer, a Spanish novelist, Javier Marías, that I like very much. He died very recently. And he was always making these reflections about words, things that should have not been said. But this is literature, right? It's different from what we are talking about. There was one of his books that was starting saying, I didn't want to know, but I have known. No, this idea that not everything at every moment can be said. But this is not against this concept of authenticity.
No, but it's a very important nuance because precisely, I think you said it perfectly, Pablo. It's not about saying everything that's on your mind. I meant it more in the sense that don't keep, when you have a point of view, don't go with the flow against that point of view. But
well, that's key in management.
Defend your ideas.
Now, that's key in management also, not only thinking about a particular group when you have a role, you're part of the team, you're leading, but also about the company itself. Because sometimes in whatever sector, there can be this or that everybody now is talking about, there is a lot of hype, but you don't believe in it. You think that your company doesn't need to go in that direction. And then you need to keep what you think must be done, for sure.
Exactly. So anyway, genuine thinking, genuine expression of your thoughts without chaos and with order and with the patience. Don't speak when you shouldn't, absolutely, but don't hold back your opinions when it is important that they are expressed. And especially don't keep going if that is going against your inner self. Because then, if you're not authentic in a very holistic way, including your personal life, so whatever you do for a living has to fit in well in a very genuine, authentic way with who you are as a person, beyond what you do as a living, which is really what's important in my mind, going back to the beginning of de-dramatizing. So keeping that balance of I'm authentic to myself at work and outside of work. And it's all one whole connected by a single purpose. And then the second element that is important to me in being successful is growing. So learning, being curious, innovative, and developing, which requires tough choices quite often, that you move on from your comfort zone. That I define as success. So not searching for promotions because that's the result, but actually taking on some risks that lead to growth and development and learning and opening up new avenues and exploring, really maybe exploring without a predefined. So I'm very much against setting, and I think you were saying the same, setting predefined goals as to where I want to get to by when in my career, for example. It's much better to enjoy what you're doing and explore.
You need to find your way, no? And because if you get too obsessed to some people were saying the opposite of what we are talking about is when you say, no, when you accept a job or a position, you need to think not in that job, but in the next move after that job.
I disagree.
Completely. That is the worst thing you can do. But some people are doing this or have this mentality or even transmit, because I am not inventing what I'm saying.
No, I see that all the time, especially in young people.
So this idea of being so obsessed with your career instead of enjoying the journey.
Yeah, and there is so much time.
Yes.
So patience pays off. There's no rush.
Well, now you mention patience. And if you allow me, Carlos, I will come back for 1 minute to the Japanese philosophy and mindset that I had a lesson, an unbelievable lesson. Last Easter, we were spending the family holidays in Japan, and then in Kyoto, we went to a ceramic store, and the owner was a man probably in his 80s, and then we bought several pieces, and then we went to pay, and he was packaging them one by one. So at the beginning, with our mentality, we were saying, wow, we will spend here. We were complaining between us, no, not to him, because he was extremely well dressed, with his tie, with his suit. But after 10 minutes, he was giving us a lesson, attention to detail, focus, quality, all these elements.
Things well done.
Things well done.
And details matter, absolutely.
He was giving us an incredible lesson, and during the dinner, we were all the time talking about this man. And what he was...
Very good story.
The lesson he was teaching us, just with this attention to detail. No, it was very, very nice experience. Carlos, I wanted to mention another verse of the poem that I know you like. You like all of them, and we cannot cover all of them. But this one, I think it's quite interesting and to share what does it mean for you. If you can make a heap of all your winnings and risk it in one turn of pitch and toss. Why do you like this one, Carlos?
It is related to what we were saying earlier on being authentic, and quite often that authenticity requires that you have the courage to make decisions that are risky. Risky according to the traditional viewpoint of success and failure. One example might be what I was just saying about taking on or looking for growth opportunities and moving beyond the comfort zone. That is risky. Even expressing one's opinion is risky. And I place a lot of importance in that. Also, more decision-making requires courage and boldness. And if one is paralyzed by the analysis of the risks.
That's very, very relevant. You can refer to this in different ways. No? One is a startup mentality. Other one is sometimes I have made this question to myself, but also in meetings with somebody else when we were talking about doing this or that. I was asking sometimes myself, sometimes others, if the company would be 100% yours, what would you do? Not in the sense, or if we would not be a public listed company, what would you do? Of course, you need to know when you are having a CEO position, you need to know everything that is involved. But the mentality, because it is clear that companies, particularly when they become big, very relevant, could become too conservative or too, and then this could be this could make the company enter into a certain decline.
Yeah, especially when you're surrounded by an environment that places a lot of importance to all details being worked out. Mm. And often one finds that decisions happen to be taken because you have a point of view and you have a vision as to where the world is going, and you want to get there. And yes, you haven't figured out all the details, but you need to boldly move on. And that requires the courage to risk all your winnings, maybe not in one shot. So it's good to do. It's also good to do risk management and mitigate the risks, of course. But the essence that I got from that verse is courage. You need courage to make decisions that are not easy. On the personal side, as I was saying, to move on to new responsibilities, even in things that might seem downgrade in your career. Okay, but that's fine. That's the journey, and that requires courage. And also on the professional side, in examples like the ones you were mentioning.
And Carlos, talking about leadership in general and in particular, I would like to ask you different things, no, about leadership and what do you think about leadership. First of all, if you can share a little bit with us, how do you think you are as a leader? So if you are very demanding, if you are very, I don't know, rational, very direct. Second, what qualities do you value in your teams when you are leading a team? I would like if you can share with us these two elements.
Okay, so doing a self-evaluation here.
Well, I'm sure you are extremely demanding with yourself, because I know that for sure. So first point, because that is, I think, key, and for you is a clear characteristic. So you are very, very demanding. I'm sure you never go to any meeting without knowing, without having prepared. So without being prepared, I am completely sure. But how would you describe your leadership? I can transmit to you that I think, for example, in my case, that but I am very interested in how do you see yourself. But in my case, I can say that during the years, I have become less rational and more emotional. What does it mean? Well, it would be.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. In that, I am demanding in the sense that I ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions because I want to understand the details, so I can have an informed point of view. I have learned over the years to focus less and sometimes to move on without understanding everything. In that sense, I am less rational, and that links to what you're saying. Maybe what I would describe as my view of leadership and sometimes I live up to that expectation, and sometimes I do not. But my view of good leadership is really to show the way.
Show the way.
That's leading. Leading is showing the way. And it's more about showing with what you do, what others should be doing, than directing and telling them what to do. And it's leaving the space for them.
Giving freedom, leaving the
freedom and
space.
space, and showing with your behavior. So I believe a lot on role model, on a role model type of leadership. Very important also, you were also asking about the type of leaders I work with and the type of people I look for in the teams. Because this particular type of leadership requires people who also share the same values. And to me, it's very important people who encourage critical thinking in others, who, this authenticity and genuine speaking out, not the command and control hierarchical type, but more everybody's opinion is an important opinion. So we want our teammates to dissent if they have a dissent, and not to hold back. So I encourage people to do that, and I look for also colleagues that have that point of view in the teams with whom I work.
And you were saying, Carlos, sharing your values. There was many years ago a very famous CEO that was saying that in his team there were 4 types of people, of executives. And it was first group, those who achieve good results and share the values of the company. Very easy, you promote them. Second group, those who achieve bad results and don't share the values of the company.
That's easy too.
You fire them, very easy. Third group, those who don't achieve good results but share the values of the company, you give them a second opportunity. Fourth group, the most difficult one.
That's the most
those
difficult.
who achieve good results and don't share the values of the company.
My advice there is you need to move on from them.
It never works in the long term.
It never works.
I completely
It never
agree.
works. And I think the biggest mistakes I have made in people decisions have had to do with staying on too long with people that was clear they needed to go. So I always look back and said they should have gone earlier. Always.
Yes,
without exception.
It never works.
It never works.
Sometimes when you are running a company, you could say, well, this is not the right moment to take a decision.
It's never the right moment.
But
that's the problem.
It's an excuse that you give to yourself.
Exactly.
Because people who don't share the values of the company, it never changes. And you cannot have that because it pollutes the whole team.
Absolutely.
I completely agree with you.
Absolutely.
But it's not easy to take this type of decisions, particularly because imagine you are thinking about a company. Because when you are running a company, this type of things, depending on what situation, can be easy or difficult. Because if the company is going extremely well, imagine you are not afraid of firing somebody who is not sharing the values of the company and is running a division, even if this division is very successful. But if you are in a moment in which the company is global is not doing that well, it's much more difficult to take this type of decision for sure.
Yeah, I think these are the hardest ones.
Yeah.
And that's why one typically procrastinates and doesn't do what should be done. But then I have always come to regret it. Yeah.
And continue talking about leadership, Carlos. I was going to ask you in terms of leadership, and if you have any figures, any people that you admire, that you think are good examples of leadership, I can share with you. Of course, there can be people from your inner circle. There can be, well, perhaps elaborate, and later after you share with us.
Yeah. Given what I have said, and maybe I missed, and now I'll come back to some role models, but maybe I missed giving some content as to what it means also to lead in terms of, so it's giving space and showing, but then helping others to grow.
Agree.
Helping others to grow, helping them develop. And
you know something I like very much in the teams, related with what we were talking before. Of course, it was in a completely different sense. But when we were talking about success, failure, for me, what is key in a team, and people belonging to the team, and when you think about yourself, success is always we. We have achieved, we have. Failure is always I. I don't like people who blame others. Failure is, I made this mistake. I like to take the responsibility. I think this is key. And another element that for me is very, very relevant, thinking about people in a team or in leadership positions, there are also people who are very good doing what they do, but those around them don't grow. And people
Exactly.
that allow others to grow. No?
I think that is very important, to leave space, show the way, but leave room for others to grow and help them grow through feedback, through pushing the envelope on them, encouraging them to take on responsibilities that might be different. So I place a lot of importance on that people dimension. In terms of role models, the most important ones are on the personal side, Pablo. So they would be in the family, starting with my wife.
Yeah.
She's an architect, and she has this philosophy of never looking back over the spilled milk. And of course, in her job, there is always so many things that don't happen as they should, because that's the nature of building a house, for example. She's really very good at moving on and looking for solutions and looking ahead and keeping calm in that sense, no, and never regretting, why did this happen or not. I mean, learning from mistakes, but basically taking a positive approach on life. And then my parents, of course, had a tremendous influence on my value system. They were both from little villages in northern Galicia, and they both...
a region that I love, as you know.
Yes,
I have
you have spent many years there.
Yeah, 17 years living
Yes.
there. Our youngest daughter was born there.
Yeah,
and she's very proud. She always say, no, I'm from La Coruña.
I can understand. It's... So we're from a bit south of that, in the south of the Pontevedra province, right on the border of Portugal. And my mother was a teacher, school teacher.
In Oleiros.
In Oleiros.
Where I was living.
Yes, exactly. So she was a school teacher in the 50s. Both her parents were also teachers, as well as my other two grandparents. So all four grandparents were school teachers. And the value of education, the value of effort, and this values perspective on life, that you need to, you have the responsibility to give it all, and then you have succeeded. That's success.
You are always, Carlos, putting a lot of emphasis on education, and I like that. And we are here at IE University, so
I
it's
believe
the perfect place to talk about education.
Is the door to opportunity.
Yeah.
It's magic. It gives you, so you need to put effort. I mean, you cannot be educated just without an active involvement. And the more passion, the more you put into it, the more you get back, multiplied. And it's magic. The way I see education is magic, and it'd be great if we could take educational opportunities to everyone, so then we would have a much better society. And I'm a firm believer in that. In the bank, we're investing a lot in education, not only financial education, but in a broader sense. And the impact that one sees of everything that we do when you educate someone, how that opens up opportunity, transforms lives, transforms communities. It's really powerful.
Powerful. And you are...
So I learned that from my family. I learned that from my parents. I learned that from my grandparents. My father is also a very important figure in my life. He's someone with willpower and resilience to the extreme. I have never seen anyone so able to continue despite the adversity, and I have learned tremendously from him. I still do, luckily.
That's great. And always talking, when we have had conversations during the years, you always, I remember when you were saying to me when you were working at a consulting firm that you were working very hard, but you always had the time, I don't know if it was once per week or twice per week, to have dinner with your father.
Yeah. I still do. I have dinner with my father once a week, at least.
That's great, and to take advantage of that. I am also with my parents plenty of time. They are still alive, both, and in very good shape.
So this links to the beginning. To me, this is success.
Yes.
To be able to do that, and it brings me calm and tranquility when you have this hectic schedule, lots of travel, lots of difficult problems on your table, people problems like we were talking about, tough choices that you need to make. Policies in Mexico, in Colombia, in Venezuela, in Spain, or what have you. Interest rates going up or coming down, inflation, and you're in the midst of this craziness. But then I go and have dinner or lunch with my father, and it's a very soothing conversation. It's a very soothing ingredient in my life, and it's a very important part of my life.
That's wonderful. If you allow me a joke, now that you're saying interest rates going up, going down, I was attending with my wife, Maria, and a few other people, a very emblematic official dinner in London a few years ago. And then when we were seeing the table setting, my wife was close to the governor of the Bank of England. And then all the different Spanish people that were there, we were not that many, she was asking us, what should I ask him? Are you interested in anything? And then somebody told her, well, you can ask him about interest rates and currency exchange. And then during the dinner, in a moment in the conversation, she asked the governor, by the way, what do you think is going to happen with interest rates and currency exchange? And the governor said, one of those is going to go up and the other down, but I will not tell you which one. A great anecdote about interest rates going up, going down. But Carlos, moving, you were mentioning the bank, and I wanted to talk with you at least a few minutes because we don't have much time. You always put a lot of emphasis when you talk about the bank in innovation and digitalization, but always with a human factor. Here at IE, we are starting a faculty of humanities to see about how relevant and the second one, sustainability and responsible banking as two pillars of the strategy. Bank strategy. No?
Yeah. Well, the first one, innovation, is it's very important also in a personal sense. So we could link innovation something that is relevant to everyone, I believe, because if there is anything constant, it's change. And this was this Greek philosopher Heraclito said this thousands of years ago, and it's true. It's the only constant thing that the world changes and things change, and if you stay put, if you don't change along, you're left behind because this keeps moving. So you need to be innovative. As a person, you need to be innovative. That's why you need to explore and search and not stay put. And as a company, you need to be innovative. Otherwise, the end is near when the world is changing really fast. So that's the foundation. Then, specifically, we have seen how digital transform many industries, and ours was one of the last ones, but it would clearly have a big impact, and that's why the bank put a lot of emphasis on that about a decade ago, and we have very successfully transformed. Today, more than half of our business is digital. It's our largest branch by far. We still have a lot of people. We have 120,000 people. But last year, 55% of our new clients came from the digital channel, mostly the mobile channel. And that has allowed us to grow at at rates that were unimaginable a decade ago. Last year, we added 11.3 million new clients to BBVA across the globe. If you look back 5 years, it was less than half of that. It was 4.6 million. Well, that's just one little example of the impact that digital has had on our business. But of course, it's not about the technology itself. It's technology serving clients, serving people. That's where the human element comes in. It's just one tool to better serve people, more convenient, more accessible, and so on. But it has to fit in within the broader value proposition and the service that we provide. Now, what we see going forward is how, on top of this digital, there's still lots of room to continue to digitize the business. And still, it's an industry that has a lot of inertia, and many pockets of it need to improve through technology. But then where we see the biggest opportunity to better serve our clients is in helping them make better decisions. So no longer only keeping the money safe, enabling transactionality, payments, and receiving or making payments, or investing your savings, or getting a credit. It's not only that, but now we can have a much bigger impact, leveraging technology, leveraging, for example, artificial intelligence to help our clients make better decisions around money that are better aligned with their life goals or with their business goals in the case of companies. And then sustainability and responsible banking, they're part of the same. So it's sustainability in the environmental and the social sense. They're both very relevant, because if we are not building a sustainable society, we cannot be happy. We cannot succeed in any way you think about success. And environmentally, we talk a lot about that. There's a big opportunity because there's a lot of investment that needs to be made. Our estimate is it's just a humongous number. $275 trillion need to be invested in the world in the next 30 years. That's about 8% of GDP. And that needs to be financed. And we can play a big role in financing all of those decarbonization investments. And on the social side, we I would like to highlight the important social role that banking plays. Not only BBVA, banks. And I think it's very much misunderstood in today's society.
I agree. Without banks, the society could not work. The economy could not work.
It's so basic that it's shocking how little it is understood. The number one factor that affects well-being in the medium to long run of any society is the investment. Investment over GDP is the number one driver. If you do the analytics, is the number one variable that explains the growth of GDP per capita. And investments require financing. And financing happens through banks, especially in the European context, where we don't have a hugely developed capital market. So banks are essential to mobilize the savings of the society, of the economy, towards productive investment, which is the driver of jobs, growth, competitiveness, long-term wealth. And it's through our financing that we can help societies achieve other objectives, digitize, become more sustainable,
no doubt,
decarbonize. All of that requires banking. And yet, it's little understood. And we're always perceived in a more negative way. I'm really proud, going back to success, I'm proud of being the chair of BBVA.
What you are doing.
Of what I do. I wake up in the morning and I feel good because we're having positive impact.
Positive impact
in the societies where we operate.
And Carlos, we are running out of time, but I wanted, before finishing, to ask you two questions that you will have to answer very briefly, or we will have to talk about this very briefly because we are really running out of time. The first one has to do with your personal day-to-day. So you wake up very early, how do you sleep? I know we have talked a lot about sleeping well and how relevant it is to sleep well. Do you exercise? What are your hobbies? I know you are a very heavy reader, no? Every type of books. And the second one, is, as far as we are here at IE University, if you would have any piece of advice to students today thinking about their careers, thinking about what they do.
So in terms of routine, I always try to exercise in the morning, a few times a week, and I wake up quite early for that. I used to run, but then I had some back problems, and the doctor said no more running, so I bike, or I do gym, or Pilates also has helped with strengthening my back.
Pilates is unbelievable. It's boring while you do it, but it's great after. But while you do it, it's extremely boring.
It is. It is. But then it pays off.
This morning I was doing Pilates very early in the morning. And that is why now I am so...
You were really bored and now you're ready.
Yeah. Now everything comes.
But doing exercise helps me tremendously.
Mens sana in corpore sano, no?
Yeah, mens sana in corpore sano. And then I try to. So the biggest challenge in my day to day is having sufficient time to do nothing.
This would make for another conversation, and I had this in mind, but we don't have time. How do you prioritize your time? But this, perhaps other day.
Perhaps we can take that another day. It's the toughest one. Because the demand on your time, on my time, it's infinite. Almost.
And I have seen every type of situations. But I don't want to lose focus.
I make an explicit effort to try to leave some time to do nothing.
To think,
which is the time to think and reflect and just because the good ideas come to you not when you're in a meeting in the heat of it, or when you're with someone problem solving something or trying to understand what to do as what should the decision be, or when you're in a committee, when you're in the midst of it, you either get bored and then
or this idea of taking a think week. That
I've never done that.
No, probably it's too much.
I have never done that.
Would you be thinking the whole week?
Yeah. But I find that the good ideas come in the unsuspected moments. Typically in the morning, in the shower, I get a lot of ideas. And then sometimes when I'm just not doing anything, an idea related to work comes.
You know what has happened?
I need more of those.
You know what
moments.
Has happened to me sometimes? That I have what I think is a good idea, just when I wake up. So it means that probably I was dreaming.
This happens to me also. I think because you mentioned sleep. Sleep is so important. The brain is working during your sleep in many ways, making memory permanent, cleaning up, and also processing. And it's true that good ideas come through the night.
And Carlos, any advice to IE students?
I would summarize it in being patient. I would summarize it there because I remember also my early 20s, and I was coming out with a lot of ambition of doing things and progressing and so on. And life professional life is long, and there's no rush. So don't set yourself targets. Don't suffocate with short-term progress, and enjoy the ride and explore with patience. I would summarize it there, my advice.
Thank you very much, Carlos. I have enjoyed very much our conversation. Thank you. Thank you
Thanks
very much.
Thanks to you. I really enjoyed it as well. Thank you.